Before we begin, I want to thank everybody for their comments and questions from my last video, in addition to private messages and emails I received, because I know it can be hard to ask your personal questions openly, so thank you for reaching out behind the scenes to get yours answered. In the last video, we touched upon the 7 principles, the Sound Relationship House, and being able to create your own mission statement. So if you haven't seen it, I'm going to give you the recap, but also you can go back and watch those videos a little bit later. So what I do is I work with couples and I help them learn how to better navigate uncomfortable conversations surrounding intimacy, money, and household responsibilities in such a way that each person feels seen, heard, and like they're a part of a team. You'll begin learning skills for a lifetime that can be used in other areas of your life with other relationships. I shared how I've been working with couples for more than 20 years through my professional background as an Army wife, a law enforcement officer, an intimacy consultant, a personal coach, and as a financial educator. I summarized all of these experiences and shared how they culminated into my 3 key focuses, which I just shared a second ago. Today, I want to cover a few important facts for you, while giving you useful tools that you can implement today with your next uncomfortable conversation. So let's get started. Long ago, in the early 1990s, there were books released that used the metaphor of planets to explain the differences between men and women, which alluded to the cause of a bad relationship. The fact is, there were also relationships between men and women with those same differences that were happy, healthy, and successful. And that is because they use key relationship principles. With that being said, it is important to point out a few key differences between men and women when it comes to conflict. For instance, let's take Jake and Julia. They've been together for 7 years and married for 5. Julia has been wanting to make some renovations to their home, which would allow her to work better remotely, while Jake believes that things are working just fine and doesn't see a need for it. Anytime Julia brings up the subject to express her concerns, it is done in a moment of time when she's already frustrated after a long day of work and then also dealing with the challenges of her current space. Jake enters the conversation on alert because he knows Julia is already frustrated. Feeling overwhelmed in thought, emotion, and body responses, Jake quickly begins to stonewall the conversation. So, what does this all mean? As research shows, men are most likely to be the sex that stonewall or fail to acknowledge, respond, and ignore during a conflict with their partners. In fact, that actual number is 85% of stonewallers are men. As Jake continues to stonewall, Julia gets more frustrated and begins talking more loudly, using sarcasm and large body language to get his attention, which never seems to work. What Julia doesn't consider, or maybe even understand, is that Jake is experiencing flooding because he's becoming physiologically and psychologically overwhelmed. This can happen when a partner's negativity is intense and sudden, and like in this case, Julia already being frustrated, bringing up the subject. Jake's mind becomes overwhelmed. His body becomes activated, and it also increases his heart rate to more than 100 beats per minute. Compounding that, hormones start flooding his system, which causes the fight, flight, and freeze responses and sweating. No matter how much Julia wants Jake to continue on with the conversation, he won't be able to think clearly. And that means he will not be able to communicate clearly, which also then can lead to harsh and hurtful responses. Men and women really are different in the fact that their bodies handle stress differently, and the ladies win for this category. From history and science, women are better able to handle stress and typically do not feel the body responses as quickly as men tend to. So here's the advice: soften your startup. A soft startup is an important step discussing a sensitive subject instead of a harsh one. The difference sounds like this: harsh startup. I don't understand why you don't understand how difficult it is to work in this space. Oh, that's right, because you won't even listen to what I have to say. Might sound a little familiar. Soft startup. I know it's not fun or easy to talk about money, and that changing my current office space will really require us to do that. It would be really helpful if we could, because I believe it will make my job easier, leaving more energy for me at the end of the day. The softer startup places the ownership of the feelings onto the person who is making the request and gives deeper meaning and context why the conversation is important. It also acknowledges what the other person may be feeling and that they may resist the topic. However, if you find that your partner is open to talk and then quickly says they need a minute, this is because they are getting overwhelmed or flooded. It is not just an excuse to not deal with the conflict. However, if you are the person who tends to get flooded and you need to take a break, it is so important that you actually come back to the conversation. Rejoining the dialogue does a few things. 1, it shows your partner that they matter and that you care about them and how they're feeling, which builds and deepens trust and connection. 2, you begin to practice self-regulating to calm down, and by exposure therapy, you also begin to learn how to work through those feelings and extending the length of time that you may be in conflict before needing a break. 3, self-soothe. To do this, you'll want to leave the room, sit or lie down in a comfortable space, then focus on your breathing, and with each breath that you exhale, focus on a major muscle group and feeling that muscle group relax. Do this through all of the major muscle groups as you focus on bringing the breath in through your nose and exhaling out through your mouth. It can even be helpful to have an audible exhale. Take 30 minutes, take a break, and revisit the topic. If 30 minutes isn't enough, pause the conversation for 24 hours and revisit then. But the important thing is to make sure that you actually revisit the conversation. Now that we've been able to cover some tools that you can use starting today, the soft startup versus the harsh startup, and also self-soothing techniques, I want to make sure that I answer some questions that I have received. Here are some that I think are important to address for everyone, because I am a firm believer that if one person has asked this question, at least 3 other people were thinking it. How is working with a relationship consultant different than therapy? Well, because we are working with very specific principles and guidance that's based on over 40 years of research and the study of 3,000 couples. The best part about this, unlike therapy, there are clearly defined goals, expectations, and structure and duration. So if you've been to therapy and you were uncertain of what you were supposed to learn, what improvements you should see, or that you needed more defined parameters, then this would be a good fit for you. Also, if you felt like there could have been more gained by working alongside other couples, then keep following along. Additionally, in my personal and professional experience, I view therapy to be more past focused and understanding how previous experiences impact our present, while consulting and coaching take that into account, the past experiences. But ultimately, it focuses on making the most out of the present while understanding how those experiences can move you towards the future. Next question. Can I participate if I'm currently in therapy? 100% yes. This can help enhance your therapy experience because it gives you a new way to look at your situation, new skills, and tools to be used in connection with therapy. I would be sure to let your therapist know you'll be working with a 7 principles leader, so they may incorporate what you have learned in your sessions if they so choose, or if you so choose. Next question. What if my partner is hesitant to give it a try? Here is a fact that may be helpful, especially if we are talking about a partner that is a man. More than 80% of the time, it's women who bring up the sticky marital situations, while men try to avoid talking about them altogether. And fun fact as well, this is also true even in the happiest of relationships. So if you consider what we learned about flooding and stress for both men and women, this actually makes sense. I would suggest that you can encourage them by asking them meaningful and rhetorical questions. Here are a few you can use. Wouldn't it be nice for us to get what we really need and desire? Can you imagine what it would be like to discuss hard stuff without letting it cause a fight? What if this can help us really be a better couple? These open-ended questions are just a few examples and gives your partner a new focus and a more positive way to shift that focus. I would also ask these questions and pause to see what their response would be, if there is one. This alone can open up a dialogue for improving the relationship. So last question. We have a really great relationship, so why would I need this? That may be true, but as with life, all relationships can and will hit bumps in the roads. Learning the skills and improving these skills now can help you solidify the concepts and safeguard the relationship before times get hard. So that was our last question. I want to thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to level up what you know. Don't miss the next video. I'll be answering more of your questions and sharing the real reason those grand gestures and date nights are leaving you feeling less connected or in love. Lastly, again, drop your comments or questions below, but also please share this video with someone you know who may find it interesting or even helpful. And if you don't want to ask those questions, then you can go ahead and shoot me an email or a private message me, and I will be happy to answer those for you.